All right, so Friday is where we left off here with the Shakespeare example. Climax where you just had arrangement of words, phrases, clauses, whatever, in order of increasing importance. Here's a big thing to understand kind of about climax, and this is going to tie in with the next one, which is parallelism. Generally, you're going to have a bunch of statements that are worded in a similar fashion, but you're building up to this kind of big climactic finish. So here we're talking about, beauty and how within a short amount of time, beauty is no longer going to be around or alive. But those statements are coming in a parallel form. Last scheme that we're going to take a look at, parallelism, and this would be like the same thing as parallel structure. Parallelism, parallel structure, parallel syntax, they all mean the same thing. Basically, it's similarity of structure in a pair or a series of related words, phrases, clauses, sentences. So you take from the Declaration of Independence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. You could have overlap between, like, say, in this case, anaphora and parallelism. You have anaphora where you have the repetition of our, and then you still have the term coming after with lives, fortune, sacred honor. Parallelism won't always be anaphora, and I'll give you an example of it coming forward, but it certainly could be. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not going to do examples for the quiz on Thursday, because if I had this one up here and Sophia said this is anaphora and Adele went parallelism, both of you are certainly correct. And so there ends up being too much overlap with them to make that a multiple choice type quiz at this point. I'd say 159 nothing.
Yeah, against a D3 school.
Maryland. Pitt almost lost like a D3 school.
Oh. Yeah, but did they?
Guess what? I'd say it will always be better.
17-14. That's not good.
Did they win or did they
I
lose?
will be if I do.
They won.
Yeah.
So now they have only 2 losses.
Yep.
So that's good.
But did they win this week?
I did not.
It was a good update. Well, I need Patrick Mahomes to do good things on my fantasy team.
I thought it was a 4 o'clock game, so I was like, went turn it on like, watching highlights. What are you going to do? Not a big deal. All right, example here of parallelism, and we're still coming from John F. Kennedy, which we had before. Ladies, listen up. This one here, let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall, and then here's where our parallelism, pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe. So you have a one-word verb, the word any, and then a noun coming after. So here would be a clearer example of parallelism without it being anaphora, epistrophe, or something like that. Generally, you are going to have some kind of word in parallelism, repeat, but it's more the structure than anything else. So pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, all of those would be examples of parallelism in this case. So you could have the anaphora, you could have the epistrophe. Here you have something that's just a little bit different. All right. Leah Morgan, just so we're not getting confused because we were asking about schemes before. Schemes was a category, tropes is a category. So you're not going to have trope as being a specific type of eloquence, but a trope involves a change of the definition, the meaning of the word or the phrase. Generally speaking, figurative language. Simile, metaphor, personification, that kind of stuff. But a trope is a new category from scheme. Now, for your quiz on Thursday, trope and scheme could still show up as definition, but it would be that general category, that arrangement of the words with the syntax, with the scheme, where the meaning, the definition of the words with the trope. But you're not specifically using trope as a type of form of eloquence. When we do our next speech, the one dealing with the leadership in America's youth, there is an eloquence component where Lucas is going to have to use schemes and tropes within it. So certainly you have to be aware of the categories, but you're not going to go, here's specifically my scheme, here's my trope, because that's just going to be general categories that we have. Anything else on University of Chicago that you want to share with Paige before she commits? Like if they were to say, you can now come to our school if you shake our hand tomorrow.
I mean, that's a commitment.
That's a commitment.
It's a big one. And let that and them be like, yep.
Okay.
tomorrow,
All right.
everything.
So you know your limits.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, what happened?
This is not a trope, but this will put a smile on your face on a Monday morning, which is an important thing to have happen. So Lexi, be ready.
Try not to latch on.
No?
I love those.
We're supposed to laugh at it.
Hopefully sound works, because that would really be a bummer if it died out on here. Ooh, here we go.
Oh yes! 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 We got it, baby!
That guy's
we
excited.
got it! We got it! Woo! Woo! We got it! Yes! Listen to that! Listen to that! Oh baby! Oh! Again! Again! That's a twofer! That's a twofer, baby! Yes!
It's a twofer. It's not lightning.
That's a twofer!
It's thunder snow.
Twofer, baby! Oh my goodness! Yes! Yes! Again! That's a three! You gotta be kidding me!
You almost said
You
threefer.
gotta be kidding me! Para! Oh my god! The winds have really picked up and through here. And there's another one! That's number... You gotta be kidding me!
Watch it. Watch it. Wait. He's really thinking here.
Wow! You can have your $500 million jackpot in Powerball or whatever the heck it was, but I'll take this, baby. Four lightning strikes, 4 episodes of Thunder Snow. I could hear thunder, so we had another one. So we actually had five strikes, 5 thunder. I mean, this is just a total change. Literally within an hour. Was that another one? Was that? Oh my good, dude, that's number 6. You gotta be kidding me. Dude, I'm telling you, this is Chicago. Postel, this is Chicago all over again. We're just sitting in the middle of it.
Gotta clean it off.
It's so snowy.
I'm a little confused. Because thunderstrucks are cool, I guess.
Thunder snow. It's not thunder strikes. You don't get thunder and snow together
Why not?
because it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've never
I
seen
only
See, never.
6 times in 10 minutes. Apparently.
That's a twofer, baby. That's a twofer.
Wow.
No, the best is when he's like 6 seconds.
He's like,
Wow. I really need to think of the right word to say here.
hey, one day when it's snowing and there's some thunder, me and Lexi will be out there.
No, here's what you should do.
That video.
When you have your next speech,
I'll be the dude
whoever Leah's going against, like it's your rebuttal time. You know, Sophia says her thing or Rebecca says her thing, and then you just stand there for like 6 seconds. All right. Where's Elena and Rebecca? Blake?
Wow.
They're just not gonna know.
They went
Tomorrow,
over, let's just walk
thundersnow
in, let's
all
all just be
day.
like, wow. Let's all just say wow tomorrow.
Do we have a lock at the door? You have to say wow before you
Can we
go.
just like not say anything?
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
then,
we'll all
like,
just think it's like
I
normal
like-
and the so
not what time does class start? 8:18. We'll just be like, all do the same.
Actually, Leah will ask me a question. I'll just stand here.
And then we'll all whenever you do it, then we'll all just be like.
say nothing.
All right, metaphor. You've heard this one before, hopefully. Josh probably even got this one right before on a quiz. Like pit football, you know, there's always a break once or twice a year where victory occurs, so maybe it'll be metaphor. So, metaphor, implied comparison between two things. You know that it's not using that connection of like or as that you have with simile. You can also guess that probably the next one's going to be simile, and it will be. So, you know, as opposed to simply going, it is hot, the flames of hell set us ablaze in August, that player is aggressive, that player is an animal would be the example of the metaphor that would be taking place. So it's it's the implied comparison. It's much more direct, than what you would have with simile because you don't have that use of like or as taking place. Who knew that metaphor was eloquence? Now you do.
I thought it was
Actually, it's tropes.
It is a trope.
so a scheme. It is a trope. But it's
Wow.
elegance.
Oh my god.
If you can also work in "that's a twofer, baby" into a speech, I might give you a bonus point.
Oh.
But Sophia can't like just yell it at the beginning of her speech, which I see her doing.
No, but what if she? No, you know, I could have used it. She talks about the Pittsburgh dude and then the Chicago dude. I could have been like, that's a twofer. Darn it.
If you could only go back and relive life again, oh, how things would be different. All right, so example coming from President Clinton's initial inaugural address. The ceremony is held in the depth of winter, but by the words we speak and the faces we show the world, we force the spring, a spring reborn in the world's oldest democracy that brings forth the vision and courage to reinvent America. So, example of metaphor getting used, and we're going to have a lot of kind of weather examples that are getting done here. His vice president, Al Gore, after there was Oklahoma City bombing that took place in 1997, at the dawn of spring last year, a single act of terror brought forth the long, cold winter in our hearts. The people of Oklahoma City are still mourning. Actually, 1995, not 97. No. Missed it on that one.
Actor, I really thought that.
Hold on. I need to think about this for 6 seconds. Wow. All right, simile, an explicit comparison. So you're making it very clear with the comparison because of the use of word or like or as between two things, generally of unlike nature. So Dante would tell you it's hot as hell in here. That player is like a scared mouse out there. Dante. Got it, yeah. It's one hell of a poem.
What's your favorite game? What's your favorite thing that a boy?
John.
John? Oh my god, wow. That's his name, guys. Okay, what about girls? Let me guess your wife.
Why'd you say it like that?
Like you're a woman.
Adeline say
Can you say Leah if I forgot
no. Actually, the best boy's name without a doubt would be Beowulf because that thing's awesome.
What?
Beowulf.
Beowulf.
McCracken, yeah. So you could be Beowulf McCracken, like.
Wait, whose little name is that?
Emerson.
That is so funny.
If Addie were a boy, I wanted her name to be Beowulf.
Really?
And the day she was born, the movie Beowulf came out. Like all the stars were aligning.
Really?
But no,
Nice.
didn't happen. Originally it was going to be Adelaide. But I said Adelaide Marmalade like 20 times. And
My name was either going to be Addison
Yeah.
or Madison, and then I popped out and she said you're going to be
it was either going to be Sadie Evelyn or Evelyn Sadie. And I was like, there's no way I want my child named after a dog. But
Wait, what's that?
Sadie is like a name of a golden retriever.
Yeah.
Oh,
I agree.
So you named your kid Sadie anyway?
I didn't.
I know
Just Kane did. I was like, Evelyn. And then
Sadie.
out she came, like, looks like Sadie. I'm like, I don't see the puppy ears anywhere.
All babies look the same.
Yeah, how do you look at a baby and you're like, this isn't your ears?
Yeah.
They all
Nah, you can.
No, because the wife and husband have people that want
All right, hyperbole. With hyperbole, you're taking a look at the use of exaggerated terms for the purpose of emphasis or effect. So, you're not going to throw out, the the idea where Sophia's talking about, there's the San Diego one, and there's the Pittsburgh one, and then Leah goes, that's a Tuca baby. You're not going to go that, there are 100,000 football players right now that are dealing with CTE, but like what would technically be a hyperbole would be that CTE is becoming an epidemic all throughout the sports world. That would be a hyperbole, because technically that is not the case, but it's for a heightened effect. You don't want the hyperbole to be there are thousands upon thousands of students in the North Hills community suffering from concussions, because at that point people are going to go, yeah, there's not like thousands upon thousands of students in the North Hills. That's when it's going to kind of leave you open to be attacked a little bit. But you can certainly go still with the hyperbole, probably more in how pervasive an issue certainly could be. So you're going something for heightened effect. You don't want to simply just use it to throw like really large numbers that 1 billion people are going to die tomorrow because of smallpox. That's an exaggeration to the whole people. Now hyperbole, that it's going to win 10 games, that would definitely.
Josh is a little butter right now.
Josh is crying over there.
He is. Stop it.
Oh my god, what year did you say that last year?
Last year I said that all the
Josh
time.
referred to me 5 times in
Josh will get mugged later this year.
Nope.
Might not be a hyperbole, because there's certainly a trend that is starting. All right, analogy. Now, analogy. Notice this: extended metaphor or long simile. So basically, it's the idea where you keep going back to this comparison over and over and over again. Tomorrow, you're going to pick up a copy when you come in of "I Have a Dream" by Martin Luther King Jr., where he's going to have examples in there of simile, of metaphor, but he's also going to have a pretty clear-cut example of an analogy so that you can see the difference. Essentially, a simile or a metaphor is going to be a one-time comparison that you do. And an analogy would be when a larger portion of a speech is going to be devoted to this comparison. Within like an essay format, think of it as like devoting a paragraph to an idea, to a comparison that you keep going back to help make a point. The idea behind an analogy is you're taking something that is potentially for your audience a little bit more complex, and you're trying to come up with a comparison that they're going to better understand. So you keep going back to that comparison to try to eliminate as much confusion as you potentially can. Lucas, phone's got to go away. Lee, do you have a question? Okay. So you're trying to make this comparison multiple times so that the audience is able to kind of further that line of reasoning and make the connection. You don't necessarily want to like go, and this is what I mean by my analogy, but the hope is that you're putting the audience in a position, in an opportunity to be able to kind of come to the conclusion on their own. Do I need to go back? See, and Adele has nice handwriting. Like, it's got to be nice and neat. Not scribbling like some people.
Me?
I got cheese.
I do not scribble. I have very nice handwriting. Mine's like
So, Bono from U2 saying that wishing for an end to AIDS and extreme poverty in Africa is like wishing that gravity didn't make things so heavy. We can wish it, but what can we really do about it? And in his interview, he keeps kind of going back to this point over and over and over again. He does a lot of benefit concerts. And then he does this thing where he snaps his fingers, and he goes, every time I snap my fingers, a child in Africa dies. And then the drunk person at the front of the audience goes, stop snapping your fingers then.
Because
Happened in Ireland.
one person is thinking that the cause of the dying is his fingers being snapped. So he's saying to stop snapping them and then just to stop dying. It's not really as bad.
I can agree on that level of dumb.
And I listen to that. It's okay, that we're all
Another analogy here with Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn talking about working with Owen Wilson. I kind of feel like a jockey on the back of a great horse, like Secretariat. My job is to just hold on when working with him. All right, not personification, personalization. This is one that people try to use in their speech a lot, and then they mess it up. So I'll explain how here. I'm just giving you an example of it. What is making this personalization? He is incorporating himself, his children, his life into what he's saying, where I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they'll not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Notice you got alliteration taking place: color, content, character, close proximity. Just because you use the word I does not mean that you have personalization taking place. So sometimes people will start off their speech and go, I firmly believe that school should start after 9:30, and go, aha, I just used personalization. I used the word I. That in itself is not going to be personalization. You have to include some aspect of your life into the speech. So if you were to go into detail about this is the time that I get up, this is when I'm working on homework, this is when I go to work, this is when I'm able to go to bed and sleep and things like that, and you're doing personal anecdotes, that's going to be the personalization. But it's incorporating yourself into your speech, but just because you use a first person pronoun doesn't mean that personalization is necessarily taking place. So there has to be some kind of detail, some kind of aspect of your life that you are going to bring into the speech, not just going I, me, mine, myself, all that kind of stuff.
Are his kids still alive? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if all of them still are, but he definitely still has children alive.
okay.
I mean, they would be 60s,
Oh,
you know, around there.
But we're only.
Yeah, I don't have like a,
Oh.
I didn't write a definition for it, so it's just incorporating yourself into your speech.
Things like soul. I was gonna start not soon.
So, speaker incorporates him or herself into the speech. You don't want the definition again to be speaker uses first person pronouns, because that could be too limiting. So the fact that he goes, I have a dream, in itself would not simply be personalization. The fact that he's incorporating his children into the speech, that's where the personalization is coming from. Allusion. Fahrenheit 451. We had a lot of allusions in that one.
No offense.
So, allusion, reference to previous work, historical event, or person. With allusion, it can be either direct or indirect. So you could go, hey, now in the words of Thomas Jefferson, and you're directly stating where you're coming from, that would be fine. Or you could say, our forefathers, or, as people before us believed, without saying Thomas Jefferson or forefathers, and it still being an allusion. So Thomas Jefferson believed that to preserve the very foundations of our nation, we need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow citizens, this is our time. Let us embrace it. This is going to count as an allusion. It doesn't take away from it by the fact that he mentions Thomas Jefferson. If a person were to quote, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and they don't say from the Declaration of Independence, it's still going to be an allusion, because the idea is people will understand where it is coming from. So it's coming from a well-known work, event, person, place, whatever the case may be. So could be direct, could be indirect. Imagery or sensory words. Really, the term is going to be imagery. I put sensory words there just to make sure that you don't think that we're only applying to sight. So this could be sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell as well. So words that appeal to any of the senses, but help kind of create a picture or establish some kind of connection in the audience's mind. Now this one is going to be more of a visual thing. where America defended our own freedom by standing watch on distant borders. After the shipwreck of communism came years of relative quiet, years of repose, years of sabbatical, and then there came a day of fire. You're using all of these kind of visuals to help set up the scene for what President Bush is trying to do, in this case in his second inaugural address. So really imagery that's going to appeal to senses, but put sensory words just to make sure that we knew we were taking a look at all 5. When it comes to your speech assignment, you're going to have to incorporate at least 3 of these. A lot of them you naturally do anyway. So as you're starting to kind of think about what you end up doing for your speech, once you know what your topic is and who your opponent, I don't want you worried about the eloquence aspect quite yet. I want you just kind of think about how you're going to set up your argument. But then you can kind of go back and take a look, okay, where do I want to emphasize a point? That would be a good time for repetition. Is there an area where I have something that's kind of complex? That might be a time for an analogy to come in, where you're making things a little bit easier for the audience to better understand. That's the last one. So for Thursday, it's going to be matching. It'll be on paper. I'm not going to do the Google Classroom quiz. It'll be matching, but it'll be terms and definitions. So you don't have to worry about, again, distinguishing between like parallelism and anaphora or anaphora on the answers, but you certainly want to go over those definitions to make sure that you're okay with it. I'll make a Quizlet live on Google Classroom. I'll probably send that out online. Just kind of. I think you have like 16 or 17 total. So let me look. No, the quiz is just going to be 10. Right, not the first 10 or the last 10.
Are you kidding me?
It's pretty joke.
It's not junior.
My finger.
It's okay.
Why does it hurt?
Wait, so does that mean that